where there's a story in every bottle.
We're live.
We're live? We're live again. Hey, everyone.
Monday.
It's Monday. I like Monday.
I like Mondays.
I like Mondays for this time,
Especially my favorite day of the week.
It's a good day.
Monday afternoons.
It's a good time, for sure. And where are we? It's a little different. I mean, last time you and Chuck were out, they were a triple bicycle in a backyard sort of setting with the lawn and the sunshine and people walking by. This is different here.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people enjoying wine behind us. And
That was crazy times last week.
That was kind of crazy.
That was crazy. That was. I think that's up there with the episode we did in the sailboat. That was almost as crazy as that.
Yeah. That was fun.
So yeah, we're on a new event space today, and we actually have some guests still here. We're still open, so the winery still has some guests enjoying the space with us.
Hope you guys can hear us fine.
Yeah, let us know.
And hopefully that's coming through well for you.
Yeah. Let us know if the background noise is too much or if our voices aren't coming through clear. And I guess while we're on the subject of some of the details of the broadcast, remember, if you want to stay abreast of these Monday broadcasts, like or subscribe to our Facebook page, live videos, and our YouTube channel, where we broadcast live too as well, simultaneously. And please engage with us. Like our broadcast, share it with friends who might be interested in the conversations that we talk about. And also, if you have comments or questions, we'd love to hear from you. It's always enjoyable to be in touch with you out there while we're talking. And we'll do the best we can to get to all your questions. If we miss a question, of course, we'll get back to that at the end of the broadcast. So we do this every Monday. If you're coming live to us for the first time, we go live to YouTube and Facebook every Monday at 5:30. Sometimes we actually tell you what we're going to talk about in advance, and sometimes not often, and sometimes we don't.
We're working on that, and we got some things. You know, one of the things that you do, I think it's next week, right, Bob, is where you do a planned tasting event.
That's
so that people can actually acquire the wine or whatever we're going to be tasting beforehand, and then do that live tasting simultaneously.
Right.
And that's next week, right?
That's next week. So I will actually put that out there. I'll publish that. We'll get that out either tomorrow or the next day, so that you know what wines we're going to be tasting. It's actually already listed. If you go to our Facebook Live listing on our Facebook page, you can see the wines that we're going to be drinking next week.
Good.
But I'll put a special announcement out, so if you haven't thought of that already, you can get involved in that. So yeah, join us next week for a live tasting of some of our wines. And speaking of wines, we've already been talking for several minutes, and we still don't have any.
I know.
And I'm surprised at you for letting me get away with that.
I love the way this is switched over, because now I didn't say a thing.
You didn't have to.
I didn't say a thing.
I know that I'm remiss in not getting that bottle open.
That's good.
So what are we opening?
Wild Blue. It's a brand new product that we have that I'm very excited about, and really appropriate for today's discussion, because we're talking about the bigger picture of wines in New England and what's going on in the wine scene in this part of our country and on the planet. And this is a good example of that, how things are changing and being done differently.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to introduce. So today, today we decided there was a really wonderful story in the Portland Herald Sunday paper this past Sunday, And we were featured in a story in the Herald, and it really got us excited about the conversation. So this, if you're from Maine, you already saw this, but this is Janice, one of our customers, brought this over to us. Thank you so much. This is the article that we're going to be talking about today, and it's really asking or talking about the New England wines, and are starting to attract some serious attention. And we're pleased that we're considered one of those wines attracting some serious attention. So we wanted to talk about that and talk about some of the other issues in this article. And I'm going to switch it over to the other view here so we can find out who's with us today.
All right.
So we wanted to explore that topic as it relates to New England wines, as the Herald has, and then talk more specifically as it relates to some of our wines here. So
it's really so many regions. When you think about wine in general terms, you don't think necessarily about Cabernet. You think, okay, Cabernet, I think California, or I think Bordeaux. Or if I think Pinot Noir, I might think Washington State, or I might think Burgundy, France. You think of different regions, geographic areas, and people talk about terroir, talk about the origin. So when you say New England wines, what do people think?
What does that mean?
What does it mean?
And I think
that's really what it is.
A perfect example of a New England wine. It doesn't get more New England than this, right?
This is 100% wild blueberries from Maine. They grow all over the place. They're along the mountains, along the sides of lakes and rivers here. And it's just what this fruit brings to the glass as a fermented alcoholic beverage. And that's what wine regions are all about. So New England is just young. We're babies in this way. We go back a couple centuries, but most of that's in hard cider. That really was the focus of potent potables in this area. And then beer was produced quite a bit. But wine is a really modern concept for this area. And a lot of that, I think, is because the grapes, classic wine grapes, wouldn't grow here. And it's taken us a while to develop these different hybrids and to get used to working with this challenging environment for grapes. There were fruit wines that went way back. You can kind of think of cider as a fruit wine in a way, but people were also making wines out of peaches, out of blackberries and blueberries long ago.
When you think about it, it was really a matter of one's experience in terms of what they had available to them. I mean, if you think about New England 200 years ago, the average person, I think they say the average person may have traveled as much as 5 miles in a lifetime. That's true.
Is that right?
In a lifetime.
So they're on their homestead the whole time.
Yeah, well, their homestead and their community. Their homestead usually involved a community center, which involved typically a church and a community, a central community
shop, a
space or building, and then a commerce, a blacksmith, and that's where people's lives revolved around these very small places. So if you imagine in the 1700s, as New Hampshire was becoming populated, the majority of people never left their immediate community. And so whatever they consumed, food or beverage, had to be consumed from what took place mostly in their environment. Some people, the very, very fortunate who had resources, could bring things in from the outside.
They brought in rum.
They brought in rum, and they brought in, and some very, very fortunate, probably down in Portsmouth, brought in wines from France.
Yes, that's right.
From Boston. So, but the average person didn't have access to all of that, and they had to consume what was here. And
that's what a lot of people planted apple trees.
Apple trees?
Specifically for making a beverage with 7 or 8% alcohol in it to tide them over through the winter, and they didn't have to worry about water that might make them sick. The cider never made them sick.
Right.
And that was one of the key things. It was a way, and it was cider is such an energizing drink. There's that little bit of alcohol in there, which is nice. But it's a very nutritious beverage. It's literally 100% apples.
And if you can imagine, if you and I lived in the 1700s,
we'd have barrels of cider.
We had barrels of cider,
We would.
and we would have figured out how to ferment any and every other kind of fruit and vegetable that produced any volume of sugar that could have been turned into alcohol.
Maybe if we lived in like 2020 or 2021, we would do the same
We
thing.
would do the same
Oh,
thing.
we are doing that.
So it's good that you're talking about cider a lot, because what is this? This is basically our blueberry version of a cider, which is really cool. This is so cool. I love this. And
I like the label.
it's also cool that you picked this, because this article came out in Maine.
Yeah.
And this is really as much about Maine as it is New Hampshire. I mean, look at this label. Hermit Wild Blue, sparkling blueberry wine. Neither I nor the berries take kindly to attempts at cultivation.
That's right.
So there it is. That's and then you go on in the back. Prune this way, trim that way, lined up in rows and presented to conform some berries. And some folks just say no. Wild Maine blueberries grow wherever they want. They sprawl across the barrens, mutating into thousands of varieties, getting more and more colorful and flavorful, which is why I put 2 pounds of these little oddballs into every bottle of Wild Blue. So great choice for starting this conversation.
It's really, it fits with it. And Maine and Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, all of New England we're seeing more and more wineries and cideries and meaderies forming and developing here. Yeah, there's a great beer revolution going on at the same time, but wine and cider and mead is really growing strong.
Right.
And it's a little different that, so much of beers do have geographic location. You think of British ales, you think of German lagers or pilsners, but more so with wine, and it can get very specific. The Moselle Valley or portions of Bordeaux or Provence. Within a little country of France, there's 40 different regions that are literally from here to northern New Hampshire or southern New Hampshire. You're going from Provence to Champagne, with Burgundy in between. And you're seeing all these different sorts of terroir, these regions. And New England has that because it's much larger than France. So it covers a large area, and there's different characters and styles. I heard you speaking with someone today. You had them down in the winemaking area, and you were talking about how grapes that grow like Syrah or something. You were talking about a particular grape.
Well, this gentleman said that he made the point that he didn't like Syrah.
Yeah. When you say something like that, it's like saying, well, I don't like Cabernet, but it's not. It is much different depending on where it grows and the wine that it results in. We're shifting over here. Yeah. All right, we're shifting over here. So that's really one of the unique things about wines, about regions, is that the soil, the climate, the conditions, the growing conditions really dictate what you end up with in the glass. The winemaker gets to craft it and work with it, but it's almost got its own destiny, and you get to help it move towards that or slightly shape it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's already set in motion by activities and actions that are way beyond our control. And there are so many people in New England right now trying to explore what that is. Us with fruits and flowers and veggies and different things, and people working with hybrid grapes that are really an American creation. It's like a jazz in the grape world. We take classic Vitis vinifera, European wine grape character, compositionally, biologically, and graft those onto Vitis Lambrusca and other things that grow well here, wild. And we have hybrid grapes in Minnesota and New York, upstate New York, have been doing great things, coming out with new, different hybrids, and there's hundreds of them, all with different characteristics and great names, and they're grown differently. Marichal Foch, grown in my backyard, is different than in Vermont or in Maine. Right. Marquette, different parts of New York grow Marquette, and Vermont is doing incredible things with Marquette.
Right.
And Nico down the road is doing incredible stuff with Marquette. One grape, just in different places, different soil, different microclimates.
So what I'm getting, and what I think this article is exploring in the Herald is that, if you go to Napa, you sort of know what to expect. It's got a reputation that's been developed over 60 or 70 years, and you know what to expect with Napa wine. And that's throughout California. If you go to San Diego, there's another region, the Temecula region, and it's very, very clear what kind of wines to expect when you go to Temecula. Different than Napa,
but
for
it
sure.
wasn't that way 50 years ago.
No, it wasn't that way at all. So it took California and all of the various regions of California, many decades to sort of sort itself out and figure out where they were. But now we know, as an audience, we know what to expect when we go to visit California. But when you come to visit New England, you have no idea. I have no idea what I want to call this. Yeah. It's all over the map. There's a lot of interesting and creative things happening, but we haven't really come upon a sort of New England theme where we sort of have an expectation.
Yeah, some people really champion one grape or one particular area. This is the terroir. This is the grape of this region. Some people focus of the whites, the crescent or something like that. And other people focus on the red, like
some people focus on the blueberry.
Some people focus on the blueberry.
And all the other things you can go around.
It used to be the Wild West, right?
Yeah.
The western part of this country was the wild portion. New England was more established, and reaching out across the country was the new frontier. Well, now it's flipped back. The grape wine industry is pretty robust and well established in California, in Oregon, in Washington, globally. They're respected around the planet as great places to grow really powerful, lovely wines. And so this is now the Wild East. If people come here and they go to 3 different wineries, they're going to have 3 totally different experiences.
Exactly.
And it really makes it fun. It makes it exciting.
It makes it fun, but it also it begs the question: what do we want our world to be?
Where are we going?
Where are we going with this? What in 50 years? Where are we going to be?
Time will tell.
And that's what
I really think blueberries are going to play a really important role.
I think you're right.
There's so many things that can be done with this fruit.
And it just dawned on me that we've been on the conversation now for several minutes, and we haven't checked in with our audience. So let me check in and see who's with us today. And so Priscilla, thank you for joining us. It's great. Jen is here.
Hey, Jen, she's in Maine.
For those who don't know, Jen is a longtime customer and club member of ours, and now you can come see her in our tasting room. She's working here every other Saturday, just all summer, I think. So welcome, Jen. We're glad to see you. She says she's got an echo. I don't know where she's getting that, but let me make sure the volume is all the way down.
Okay.
And Janice is the one who was gracious enough to bring the article from Portland. Thank you for that. And Geraldine is there. Hi, Geraldine.
Hey, Geraldine.
Glad you could join us. Marianne Houghton is with us tonight, and she wants to know what is Chuck tonight? Let's see.
Chuck's in Hawaii.
From Rochester, New Hampshire. Yeah, Chuck's is in Hawaii?
I think he's in Hawaii. We got that photograph yesterday evening from Maui, and then he said he was in some training thing, right? So
yeah. Hey, let's know if the echo went away. I think I tried to eliminate that. Chelsea, hi Chelsea, glad you could join us.
Turn down the music, maybe that'll help a little bit.
Yeah. And let's see,
Sometimes it
Matt's
has
here.
to do with, can you turn the microphone off of the laptop? Because I think they both pick it up.
I think I can.
I think that's what the problem is. When we were doing it last time when I was listening, that just turn the mic, so there's a microphone only from one device.
Yeah, you can't. There is only one microphone.
There is only one?
Yeah. But so our microphones, I think, are picking up the various other sounds. So I think if you hear, it's hearing. I think I fixed the echo. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Still echoing, 550. So it's still echoing.
Okay.
It might have to do with that camera.
It is really. It is a bigger picture, and that's what I think the article is trying to get at in the Herald, and talks about different wineries in the region that are making wines in different fashions from different materials. And but it really begs the bigger picture. Where are we going? What is going to stand out? You know, Germany and France started making wine out of grapes thousands of years ago, together, side by side. And you don't think of German red wine. You think of incredible Rieslings.
Yeah.
And
that's a really good point.
That is really set by the environment in Germany. We're shifting over again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I've got to follow the cues. You know, he points.
Yeah. We're still learning, right?
We are.
In this thing. The echo's still there. I'm sorry. We're going to fix that technology.
Technology. We're expanding all the time, and we end up with new issues to deal with. But we try to bring a better and better experience every time as we can. But anyway, that to me, years ago when I was studying the history of beers, it stood out that the water controlled the nature of these different regions because it made the perception of hops different. So that's really what set apart Great Britain from Central Europe with the German Pilsners and the Czechoslovakian Pilsners from the British ales. It had to do with the geology, so which is I really like. But the geology, the microclimate, directly impacts the nature of the fruit that grows there, whether it's a blueberry or a Marquette grape or a Pinot Noir grape. They all are directly related to the soil, the nutrients, the parent geology that set that in place, and the climate and how things are changing. And one of the things, and the article touches on this a little bit, the climate has been changing. It is warmer here on average than it was a couple centuries ago in this region.
Right.
And the plants are responding to that, as we all are. And it's providing the opportunity to grow fruit and grapes that typically want a warmer environment. You know, one of the things that impedes us from growing Chardonnay or Pinot Noir in New England is the long, cold winter. Their roots can't handle that. Their stalks, their stems can't handle it. They explode.
Right.
They fall apart. They don't pull their sap down. Concord grapes pull their sap down and they survive, and come spring and they pop out of the ground. And hybrids marry those two together. So by having a warmer climate, we're getting a longer growing season. We're getting more phenolic ripeness. We're getting better flavors coming out of the fruit naturally from the environment. So it's really affording the opportunity for wine growers to really go, hey, I can grow these hybrids here. They survive our winter, and we're getting a longer summer. We're getting better intensity, better sugar levels, better phenolic ripeness, better flavors from the fruit that's growing. Wild blueberries, of course, live in this little tiny niche. They're fascinating. There's the little tiny layers of soil, intense droughts and hot.
And hundreds of varieties.
And hundreds of varieties. When you look across some of the mountains off, Cadillac Mountain off in Maine, and you see these blueberry barrens. It's rocky soil with these little tiny plants, and they explode with these little tiny blueberries. These are large, actually, compared to some of the blueberries that come off plants.
No, good.
But they grow in this niche, and it's, remember that group we interacted with, I'm going off the track here, but the biologists think the nutritional aspect of wild blueberries, which are much greater than the nutritional aspect of cultivated blueberries, has to do with the survival mechanism that the blueberries have in that little tiny niche of soil. So they're struggling to survive. They're creating antioxidants, their ability to withstand difficulties. And then when we ingest those, or bears ingest those, or deer ingest those, we gain some of the nutritional value from that. Fascinating. Marathon runners. Remember that woman I was sitting with? She was from the University of Chicago or something, and she was studying how people who do extreme sports recover much faster eating a few handfuls of wild
I remember
blueberries.
you told me to eat blueberries every time I did a run. So
Eat wild blueberries. Or drink wild blueberries.
just drink wild
There's
blueberries.
2 pounds of wild blueberries in every bottle.
I know.
So this is just handfuls of blueberries right now with alcohol.
It's fascinating sitting here listening to you talk about all these variables, which we're
Sorry, kind of running on.
No, it's good. It's good. No, but this is interesting because you're the winemaker. You're thinking about these. You're thinking about the soil. You're thinking about the fruit.
That's what makes it so fascinating.
Right. But all the time I'm sitting here thinking also, remember, I'm sort of the other side of I'm thinking about how do we represent our product. I'm thinking about the marketing and the building of the brand awareness, and so that you make great wine, and then I figure out how do we get that wine in front of people. So it makes me think about this conversation about who we are, what we are as an industry and as a region, and that's another variable that we haven't worked out here. So where that comes from. So in Napa, if you decide to become a winemaker in Napa, there's sort of an expectation for what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, based on a marketing idea, based on an idea of how Napa wants to be seen by the rest of the world.
Now, but in the beginning, if I remember correctly, I mean, back in the 40s and 50s, Napa grew grapes just fine. California grows grapes well, and they made jug wine. They made fortified jug wine.
I bet they made fruit wine.
They made fruit wine.
They made fruit wine.
Yeah, they made lots of fruit
wine. That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
But then Mondavi and others, but Mondavi stands out in my mind, recognized the potential of that area to grow the classic Bordeaux grapes, to make, to grow Sauvignon, to grow Cab.
And that they had the region and the growing soil and the growing the weather to manage those kinds of achievements. And so my analogy is this: a lot of New England has entered into the world of wine in many cases largely because of tourism.
Right. It is tourism.
Yeah, so there's a lot of winemakers or wineries that have understood the importance and the benefits of offering wine as a tourist destination, as a place to go and entertain oneself and learn about wine, and the focus isn't about necessarily what style or what make of wine or what type of wine or the fruit or the terroir. It's about what will sell well to tourists. What's the experience that tourists will appreciate and enjoy? There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great venture. Lots of wineries have developed out of that, and we certainly don't ignore it. We have a huge tourism region here, and we have to think about that.
Thousands of people.
But it's what serves to sort of confuse the question of what is wine in New England.
It does, and we get this every day in the tasting room. Someone comes in and says, "Well, I like big red wine." Okay.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? They're looking for Merlot or Cabernet or Zinfandel or something. But we don't have any of that. And if we did, we imported it from somewhere else. So it's not really from here. And that makes it confusing for people. And
so you just tapped on something. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. You said something that's important. The person comes into the tasting room looking for that big red wine. Why? Because nobody knows what to expect.
Well, they've been the California lobbies have helped promote that.
Sure,
it's done well. People enjoy that.
If you walked into California and to Napa and you said, "I'm looking for a big red wine,"
they'll laugh at you like, "Of course, you're in the right place."
Right, exactly. That's what you're looking for. If you walked into Napa and said, "Do you have blueberry wine?" They'd look at you cross-eyed. But you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't go into Napa looking for a blueberry wine.
Because we already know.
We already know.
And no one knows what to expect here.
No one knows what to expect in New England.
We don't know what to expect.
No,
we're the ones who have no idea.
We're figuring it out.
We each visited wineries this weekend.
Yeah.
Different experiences, different layouts. Everybody's doing different things, which is fun. It's the wild east. This is the new frontiers. This is like the Napa of the 1950s or 60s. Everybody's trying different things. You come here, you try these various fruit wines and hard cider and mead. You go over to, Cellar Door in Maine, and you have wines made out of hybrid grapes that they grow, as well as, now we're over here, as well as wines made out of blueberries and other things that grow real well in Maine. That makes it fun. It makes it interesting and fascinating. But the more people and winemakers, both the winemakers and the customers, will vote with their dollars. They'll see what works, what they enjoy.
Right.
They buy more of this, we make more of that. If we make something that doesn't turn out to taste very good, we won't make it anymore. If we make something that tastes really good, we'll make more of it and try to get it in front of someone.
On that note, I keep hearing an echo from everybody, so I'm going to see if I can just turn the mic off of that.
Okay.
See if that fixes it.
He's taking care of the technology.
I hope so.
I worry about the liquid part. He takes care of the network part of it.
There we go.
Let's see if that works.
I think I turned the mic off.
Let us know, folks, if that works. I think it makes sense for me. When I was in Atlanta last week, when we did the crazy live from the garden.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I could hear an echo. I could get that microphone that was picked up somewhere else.
All better. Thank you, Greg.
There it is. Hey, Greg. Glad you're here.
Greg, by the way, Ken shared with me some of the bacon that
did you have
made.
it? Oh. Wasn't that incredible?
Yeah, it was really good. Thank you for that. That was really special.
Did you have a Lagavulin with it?
I know. I had it for breakfast. Which I usually have bacon for breakfast.
You gotta have.
I should have saved it for Greg.
Some of Greg's bacon.
You'll have to send some more. I'm sorry.
It's really tremendous. My whole house, I don't know, your place must have smelled of the smoke.
No,
right?
it was really funny. I went home real quick before this episode to bring something back to the house and pick something up. And I walked into the house and I was like, bacon. I feel like we just had bacon. That was 8 hours ago. So yeah, it really permeated the house. I think I'll be smelling bacon in my house for the next month. I think we're going off track though. But thank you, Gregory. That was really cool. So it's really, I think we're forming now, like a lot of places, like Germany and France, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they were growing whatever they could, and lots of vineyards right now are growing different types of grapes. They're growing different hybrids, and they're watching how they behave, and then they're ripping out the stuff that doesn't do well and planting more of the stuff that does do well. But it takes time. It's not like growing a cucumber and going, okay, that's it, I'm going to grow cucumbers from here on out. You got to nurture that grapevine for years before you're pruning it right and developing good tasting fruit that then goes into wine, and you got to wait for that wine to mature. So it takes at least a decade to make an educated decision about whether or not Marquette grows really well on your side of the hill, unless it all rots out the first year. Then you know that's a dud. Don't grow it anymore. We're going over here. But that's really the challenge of time. It's a very slow moving thing. And it takes, like you said, decades or centuries for regions to develop themselves, to know. And California, like all great wine growing regions, continue to evolve. When we first got into this, we imported some grapes and I was reading books. I sort of thought that the whole wine world had it figured out. You're either in a good place that grows grapes or you're not, and you either know how to use the right techniques or you don't, and you end up with good wine. And that's it, and nobody's doing anything different. But it's not like that at all. Not at all.
It's completely dynamic. It's changing. It's like the beer world is a perfect analogy. You sort of figure, okay, the Brits and the Germans got it figured out with their ales and lagers. That's it. And along comes America, and we just knock it out of the planet. And we didn't even know about Belgium all the time.
And back to the marketing and winemaking question. Both areas are contributing all the time. Society is evolving. People are changing. Their ideas of things are changing. Yeah. So both our understanding of the technology, our understanding of the fruit, our understanding of the growing capabilities and the weather and the climate all play an important role. Our ability to manage the technology that creates these wonderful products. I mean, we still have to think about the containers that we ferment in and the contributions those containers have. And there's all these variables. And then simultaneously layered on all of that is society and culture and as you know, we're in a day of discovery right now. There's more breweries and wineries and distilleries popping up all over the place. The sky is the limit for what we can create.
And stuff's going all over the place. I mean, 10 years ago, if you made a cloudy beer, you screwed it up.
Yeah.
You dumped it
Not
out.
anymore.
There's no way you could sell it. And now that's the bomb. That's it. Or if it's sour, it gets infected with bacteria and gets tangy. well, I screwed that up, better dump it out. No, charge more for it. People love it, whatever. It just changes. The people are driving this. I mean, the fact that we can have 30 different products on our shelf is because 30 different products sell, because people want that diversity. They want to see that. Well, they shape it. You all shape it.
But again, it goes both ways. People shape it, but then people start to create an expectation. So it's being shaped right now. We're in this very random, because the possibilities are so across New England. The possibilities and options are so broad.
They're huge.
That nobody knows really what to expect. And their behavior does shape, is actually shaping the outcome by what people choose to purchase and bring home with them. So that's happening in real time right now. In the same way, literally, and a lot of people don't know this, but if you bought and drank wine from Napa in the 50s, you were not considered a wine enthusiast. You weren't taken seriously. If you drank wine in the 50s, you were drinking wine from Europe, and that's it, period.
That's it, right.
So a lot changed,
and no one even really knew much about it other than Europe.
Right, and now Napa is one of the most famous wine regions in the entire world. Yeah. So we're in the early stages here in New England, and what's exciting is that the fact that the Portland Herald even wrote this article is
awesome.
That people are starting to understand that something really special is taking place here in New England. It's not just a free-for-all. It's not just the Wild East anymore. It's actually a breeding ground for a future that I think is going to become just as important as Napa and any other region in the world. That we're going to shape and form out of all of this culturally and climatically and from
that's a really good point.
Terroir perspective. Right. Eventually, in 50 years or so, people aren't going to come in here looking for a big red. They're going to come in here looking for a big blueberry. Right. They're going to want to know what's the latest thing on the blueberry front.
What's happening with Marquette?
Yeah.
What are you doing with this?
Or the hybrid grapes that are coming out. Yeah, there's all this exciting stuff, and the media, the national media. I mean, this is the Portland Herald. This is an important paper in this part of the world. But in not too distant past, the Wine Enthusiast did a very serious.
Had a whole article.
They looked at this
on quality fruit wine. It's interesting. We have this this paradigm, this perspective that we're constantly trying to shirk off. That fruit wine is always a sweet, fruity thing that has no place next to a age-worthy, well-structured Burgundy or something like that.
Or Napa.
But that's slowly changing. Yeah. People are understanding that there is potential for that, and I think there's a good point in that article that talks about food sort of preceding the wine part of it, that New England is starting to be recognized for the local food character, that our small-scale farms, our rolling hills, our produce, our meats, our Fortuna sausages, our cheeses, that these things are recognized already nationally. Maple syrup. People think about New England from a food perspective already. When they come to New England, they already have some ideas of what they're thinking about. Not yet on the beverage. Maybe a little bit for New England IPA, but not certainly about hard cider or wine. And so this is sort of following that. We're underplating and filling in behind that food revolution and recognition, and then people will go, oh, if I'm going to have a cheese that's made in Vermont with blueberries, why don't I have a local blueberry wine?
That's
pairing is perfect.
That's a really great point. And actually, that's one of the things I took away from that article myself that was really the most poignant. And I think about it because, when we started this winery, farm to table was really booming, right?
So farm to glass.
Right, but what happened when you went to the average farm to table restaurant 10 years ago, and even still today?
Still today.
The wine menu is largely made up of wines in California. Yep. Here we are, really thinking about the importance of local food and supporting our local farmers and growing this really centralized food system. And you get to the wine menu and you get Cabernet from Napa. It doesn't make any sense. But that's the point. This article really raised that. As New Englanders become more and more concerned about the food they're eating, and we become more educated about that food, it's going to be more and more important for us to follow it with the wine.
And things pair better when they come from the same place. Yes. You know that. Yes. You know, you've gone,
absolutely.
Like when we were in South Africa, the sort of biltong and the the Chenin Blanc that we had would like bang on. It was just awesome. When you're in that environment, you grab that whole the whole picture.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost, I mean, it just fits. You're embracing the environment fully that way.
Yeah.
You're eating and drinking and breathing and seeing and hearing your environment completely. And that's where we're going. We just don't know what the products are going to be. What are we going to be known for? Are we going to be known for blueberry wine? Yes, in some form, I think, for sure.
I think it's also apropos that it's the Portland Herald that sort of raises this point, because one of the most amazing places, if you haven't spent time in Portland in the last 10 years, book a trip, but don't book it too soon, because everything is sold out solid. Darylyn and I tried to book a trip to Portland this summer. Forget it.
Yeah,
you're not going. So anyway, Portland has figured out food like no other place.
It's the foodie place.
I think it's one of the best food places in the country.
It is.
I've been
ranked that way.
Places all over the country, and I've had some amazing food for sure. But never have I seen such a concentration of food and beverage and people who care more deeply about it than in like a 2 square mile area of a city.
Right.
You don't have to go in a car at all. You can go and get the greatest food and beverages that you'll ever imagine. There must be 50 breweries in Portland.
I think it's per capita in this great book. If any of you have heard of it, it's called Taste Memory. It came out about a year ago. It's a fascinating read. Per capita, Portland, Maine is second only to San Francisco, California in number of restaurants per person.
Wow.
Second in the nation. It is the foodie place on the East Coast.
And here it is right in our backyard.
It's beating out New York City.
And I can't even go there because I can't find a place to stay. I got to get a camper or something.
Good luck with that.
I know. Finding a camper these days. We're certainly not going to go. A tent isn't going to work, I'm quite certain.
Yeah. Yeah. It is fascinating. It's great to be here. I mean, we've always been really keen on the locavore food movement, and to be right in step with that, with the sorts of wines that we make, just to me justifies it in that bigger picture. The reason local foods do well is that you're working with the environment that's here. You're not trying to force something in from outside. Like you said, the Big Red, people coming from California that want their Big Red, sorry, Greg, you're not going to get this massively powerful Napa blend. We can't grow that here. We grow something that's lighter and fresher and a different nature to it. But that fits this environment. Just like you don't go to the Moselle Valley and expect powerful reds. You get distinctive whites.
Right, right.
And that I think is really exciting, that when you work with what the environment wants to create, you're going to end up with something that's more distinctive than trying to force a paradigm on it, for sure.
So let's check in with our audience and see if we got any other comments or questions.
Look at this fancy. We just changed camera angles. And boom, we're right there.
Matt Danette says, anybody else ever try Wild Blue with pork rinds? I can't say that I've tried that.
Oh, that sounds like a good combination.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? Let's see, Gregory says, so I shouldn't bring wine from California. What?
No. I never said that, Greg. I never said that, Greg.
It doesn't mean that we can't make big reds in New Hampshire, that we don't like to drink big reds.
That's right. Or Ardbeg, for sure. or Lagavulin.
Or Ardbeg. We don't discriminate against any alcohols, by the way. We may focus our attention on wines, meads, and ciders here at Hermit Woods, but when we go home at night, we appreciate the other alcohols that that are produced in the world. And I assure you, someday in the future, you will see
do that.
That appreciation is going to only grow.
We should do beer and spirits, Bob. Come on.
Maybe
Let's
someday.
get going. Let's do that.
Oh, let's see. Gary says, all local, one of the first things that brought us to Hermit Woods. Thank you, Gary. That's
awesome. Yeah.
That's one of the things that's
great.
More important to us than anything else.
Yep.
Huge fan. I just got to bring it. Huge fan of sharing. Oh,
yes, you are, Greg.
absolutely.
Thank you.
You got to bring it.
Thank you very much.
Look,
He ships his, he got this smoker in his backyard and gets these cuts of bacon. And
you smoked that bacon?
Yeah, he did it. He created that. And then he ships it cross country for us. Thank you. That's his art. And that hot sauce.
Janice says blueberry stout.
Oh.
We had that?
Oh.
Never had that.
So I made a Marichal Foch stout.
Yeah?
Remember, so I was making a dry British stout, and I have these hybrid grapes growing outside my brewery at the house. And I picked the grapes. I happened to be brewing when the grapes were ripe. You know, it was October or something like that, September, late September.
Oh, I remember that.
And so I picked the grapes. I had, you know, maybe a couple of pounds of grapes off the one vine, and they're covered with native yeast. So I smushed them all up and threw a cloth over it and left it in the sun outside while I was brewing the stout. So they worked. The yeast multiplied. They did their thing all day long into the evening, chilled down the wort for the stout, and then threw all those grapes in there with their yeast and made this stout.
So there's a lot of possibilities.
Lots of possibilities.
The future. Yeah, I had a question for you, because I've been eating these little
those dried blueberries.
These dried blueberries. So there's these really wonderful dried blueberries that we put on some of our plates here. But it made me think about in the wine world, people make wine from the dried grapes, sort of the raisins. They put them in straw, so they extract the moisture, but
they'll lay it out.
But don't get bacteria. That there's that gentleman in Maine that was doing that up in. So I'm curious: is there a source for us to acquire, or could we make?
I've been looking into that.
A batch of dried blueberries to ferment.
Yeah. Because
the flavor of these little guys,
I know, it's pretty
so
intense.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yet really intense blueberry character.
Right.
You could come up. That would be amazing.
That was.
When can we do that?
I approached Todd from our supplier for blueberries
to see if he could dry them.
If he knew of someone who was drying his wild blueberries, and he gave me a lead on someone who's drying blueberries, but not wild blueberries. So I still haven't found wild blueberries that have been dried. But I've been working with different techniques trying to build intensity. Wait till you try the new deep blue. Got going on. Different techniques. The other problem is you need to dry things out. Like if you're in Sicily and it's late summer into the fall and you've picked all of your Cabernet there and you lay them out on straw mats, you have a good couple solid 3 weeks of nice, dry, hot weather to dry those out. When are you going to dry those fruit here, Bob? We got 90-degree days just a couple days ago.
90% humidity.
50-degree days.
Well,
so it's a little bit more
humidity.
difficult. Just from, again, working with the environment, we could set up dehydrators and stuff like that. But it is a different sort of challenge that fits in our environment.
Well, what was that guy doing? Remember we visited that guy in Canada, up in Sutton, where he was desiccating
his fruit, and it's just a way of reducing the amount of water, taking the moisture out,
and concentrating the sugars
so that you concentrate everything.
Yeah. You're not taking anything away from the process. Right. You're adding to it because you're adding the percentage of flavor and sugar that enters into the fermentation is much higher. And these are really intense.
Oh yeah, good flavor. Very good.
Concentrates everything.
And you taste those little seeds. We got more rain. Speaking of rain and trying to dry fruit out, it's pouring outside right now.
That's one thing I love about this new space. We got metal roofs, and the roofs are right there.
Yeah.
So when it's really raining, I was here one night, we're changing subjects again. Sorry. I was here one night when there was a thunderstorm, and with all the windows that surround this room, with the rain beating on the roof, and they're just flashing outside the windows. It was a really amazing experience.
Will we have to stop the jazz ensemble if we have an event and then we get a big lightning storm?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to figure that out.
I bet that'll be loud enough. Yeah, my metal roof over my porch is like that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's great in the storm. Yeah,
listen to the storm. So back to the subject at hand.
Yeah, because it's really a fascinating position to be in, to recognize that this is an extremely young industry and no one knows where we're going. And everybody's got an approach, an idea that is really exciting to them to pursue. I'm enamored with blueberries, and I'm working with blueberries and a dozen different things all the time, trying new techniques, new ideas. There are people that, like Nico, that's working with Marquette, working with it in different ways, in different formats. And Brian is working with the Crescent. And everybody's got their different approaches, working with their environment, working with the grapes or the fruit, both out in the field and in the cellar, to see if we can craft something that captures what New England is, what this place is. Just like people, in Vermont with their cheeses, or Wisconsin with their cheeses. Everybody gets known for a certain thing. And we're on that path trying to figure it out, but we don't know where it is going to be.
No.
Some stuff's going to fall off to the side, and others will. And again, it's like you said, it's both the people who are trying to craft the product and the public who's consuming it. And where those overlap positively, that moves forward.
Pushes the direction.
Right.
And that's what, and I, by the way, I will post this article. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you could Google it and find it, but I'm going to post it on our page so that everybody can determine for themselves, pull it up and determine for themselves. And what I loved about this story was that they really explored all aspects. They looked into people like us making fruit wines, something unique and different from everybody else. And they looked into like Deidre over in Vermont at La Gargiste, who's been working organically with or biodynamically with
natural wines,
grapes, natural wines from hybrid grapes.
And Ethan over at Iapetus,
and Ethan at Shelburne, and then there's we've interviewed the gentleman from Mermaid, Nico from Mermaid. He's really, all he cares about is coming up with the best way to grow the best fruit possible and make that.
He's so excited in my backyard. He's tending those grapes. Yeah, and he had put up an electric fence because I have a lot of deer pressure, and he put the electric fence over where I mow a path that goes up to the access road that goes back up into the woods. Sure. And I asked him a few weeks ago, I said, the deer pressure is off, the plants are pretty well set. Is there any chance you could take down the fence? Because I like to mow a path up there. He said, sure, but if you don't mind, I'd love to just leave all the wildflowers growing along the vines because it's perfect right now. I said, no problem at all, however you want to do it. So the vines right now, he's trellised them in a different way than I've ever done it. They look fantastic. And he posted a picture of my backyard with about 40 different types of wildflowers just popping up all around these vines. And he loves that biodiversity going into the soil. Just that's what that place wants to produce after it's been mowed for the last 10 years or whatever. And so everybody's got their approach to crafting and creating and growing their product.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what this article explores. It's talking about all the different folks across New England who are thinking about this differently. We're not in this for the tourist side of this. That's not why we did this. And,
right, no.
And Nico's not spending all his time worrying about wildflowers and grapes because he cares about anything but what he can discover about what New England has to offer the world of wine. And how does he, as the winemaker, get to translate that into a bottle of something that represents the terroir of our world here in New England.
Yep.
And And there's debate, I guess, even within the article about how long we have to go before we figure out where we are in the world of wine.
Yeah.
And who knows? Anybody with a crystal ball, please let me know, because I'd love to have a little insight into the future. But really, anyway, it doesn't matter, because it's about the journey. I mean, at least for me, it's been about the journey.
And I think,
so.
you know, there is more interest in what's going on in New England. Again, you know, started off by the food, but now with the wine, and there's more serious consideration for what we're doing. You know, like some of the articles that have come out, and some of the wine experts and food experts that are surprised by what's actually coming out of this place. But I think it shouldn't be a surprise. Those things that end up hitting a home run are those places where people work with what the environment does. That has to be the way. At least that's what makes sense to me, instead of trying to force something down a particular path.
And on that note,
yeah,
this blueberry cheese from Vermont, and this wild blue wine,
it's a great combo.
Is amazing.
It's a great combo, because I usually don't go for that blueberry cheese.
Yeah, but
on its own, it's just it's okay. I sort of like it, and it's all right. But I'll go for the well-aged cheddar or something on its own. I like that purity. But this combination,
oh my God,
it's spot on, because the little blueberry nuances with the cheese.
Kind of like these. Kind of like the blueberries.
Like
they're dried.
Because this is just pure blueberries.
Yeah.
This is the pure liquid alcohol form of blueberry right here in this glass.
That's perfect. I'm sorry, I'm talking with my mouth.
You gotta get this in front of people, lots of people.
I don't think I have to do anything. They're just going to taste it, and they're going to realize what a
we got to get people to try that.
They will.
Let's just ship a bottle to everybody in the United States.
Uh-oh. You better be careful. I'm going to get in trouble. Go bankrupt too.
Okay, so we'll ask for donations or something.
This has been a great conversation, and I will share the article with everybody soon, in the next day or so you can read all about it. You should. It's a great article. The reporter did a really fabulous job enlightening us on this subject, and introduced some great winemakers. So we didn't mention them all, but there's some great and interesting wines all over New England to be tried. And I urge you to venture off and try them.
Into the Wild East.
Into the Wild East. Coming up in future episodes, we talked about next week, we have a wine tasting. So if you want to join us on that, we urge you to pick up those wines in advance, and you can drink them alongside us and bring your questions to the table. And then the week after that, I'm really excited. We have John Lorenz, who's going to be he's going to
do it in the week following?
Yeah, he's going to head up our music venue here. He's working hard at trying to figure out how do we get our listening room started, and some piano nights here at the loft, and we're also going to bring some entertainment across the street to the wine and beer garden. So we're going to interview John, find out a little bit about his background, what he brings to the table, what he brings to the piano. What he brings to
the keys.
We're going to interview him in front of the piano. We'll probably have him play a few tunes for us.
He's an amazing.
He really is.
I mean, just amazing all around. Just a great guy to converse with, and a really great guy to listen, play music. Yeah. And he plays so many different types of music and different instruments. And
so that's two Mondays from now. We're going to do that, and so I hope you can join us. So see it. We're not entirely in the dark. People don't always have to wonder what we're going to do on Monday. We know now. We're going to do a wine tasting next week, and we have John Lorenz the week after.
And soon, Greg, if you're still there listening, we're going to have our new wine assistant, Cody, back over here. Cody Bridgers came. He's been working with Morgan in Napa, making some very powerful, expressive red wines that grow really well out there. Mm-hmm. And now he's down here in the cellar making blueberry wine with great aptitude for sure. And at one point, we will be interviewing Cody, and I'm sure we'll be sampling some wines as well. Maybe that'll be a fun conversation.
Maybe that's 3 weeks from now.
Maybe it's 3 weeks from now.
Sure. Yeah. So we're at 6:31. Small Miracles.
Wow, an hour went again already? Jesus.
We're actually going to finish this in an hour. We almost never do that.
No, we're not already, because you're still going on. You just said it was 6:31. We're already a moment over.
And actually, we're not going to finish this because I'm sure Ken and I are going to continue to drink this wonderful wine and talk for possibly hours into the future. So, but as always, we really appreciate you folks showing up and joining us for this conversation. Some wonderful comments made tonight, and we appreciate that. So, thank you.
And again, if anyone out there has particular ideas or topics that you'd like to see covered at some point, we're happy to entertain that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great idea.
Unless you want Bob and I to play musical instruments, because that's off the table.
So until next Monday, join us 5:30. Any Monday, every Monday. Join us 5:30 for some conversation revolving around
that involves alcohol,
wine, alcohol in general, food, and everything that we partake in that brings all of this together for us and allows us to share this wonderful experience with you. So thank you, and we will.
Cheers, everyone.
See you next Monday.